One of the best ways to learn how to code is to get involved with open source. With over 56 million people using open source today and over 1.9 billion contributions made to the different platforms, open source is growing at an insane rate. If you're new to open source is the concept of having publicly accessible code that anyone can freely distribute or even contribute to. But of course, licenses do apply, so read the fine print before you distribute. Open source is a great place to build skills as a developer. Not only will you be reading tons of code to learn from, but you'll also potentially be contributing code towards those projects. It's very possible that you're going to find like-minded individuals working on those projects that you're interested in. And of course, this can help you build a reputation and learn something new in the process. You're going to work in a collaborative environment where you can learn from other people and get your code reviewed. And if you want to be on the other side, you can also review other people's code. This just helps you build something that you can show off to other people, like future employers or even other open source projects. This helps you build a track record and really a reputation in the open source communities. But you may say, hey, I am pretty new to development and I don't think I can contribute code right now. Well, here's the thing, you don't have to. You can contribute in many different ways other than code. Some of the best contributions, in fact, are just fixing typos in documentation or helping others with their issues in the projects. For me personally, I got involved in open source at a pretty early age. Back when GitHub was becoming a thing, the social platform for coding, I thought, hey, let's create an account and let's see what this is all about. Of course, there weren't many projects on GitHub at the time, but there was always cool new things coming into the platform. Most open source at the time really existed in kind of its own ecosystem, such as Linux distributions or software foundations. A lot of companies actually weren't even open source back then. But now, a lot of companies have actually embraced the idea of open source because they know how much it benefits everyone. The cool thing about open source, and really this is coming from my personal experience with open source, is that it can lead to a lot of opportunities. So what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is when you get involved in an open source project, it's very possible that that project can grow. And as that project grows, they're going to need contributors and maintainers of that project. Maybe that project might even turn into a private company and they'll ask you to become an employee. Maybe that project becomes used by many different companies and you need to support it in an open source fashion. Maybe that project is being used by thousands of real companies and they're going to pay you to add new changes. Maybe that project is used by many in the community and they're going to sponsor you and pay you to maintain it. Or maybe even somebody just stumbles upon your profile because they saw you contribute to a project they were interested in and they hand that over to a hiring manager or even just are interested in building something with you. What I'm really trying to say is that open source is just a footprint and it really helps you build that reputation. Open source has personally helped my career over the last 10 years. I want to talk about that for just a second. In college, I started to look for different open source projects that I was kind of interested in, and I found one and I started to contribute to it. But I wasn't really that great at coding and I didn't know how to contribute in a very meaningful way. So I found ways to contribute such as fixing typos or fixing code formatting or really adding documentation and helping people with answering their questions on issues. And needless to say, people saw what I was doing and they started to share it more broadly. That turned into a job at a startup, and that startup got acquired by Microsoft. And really, my job today is working with open source. And really, in the future, I think that many jobs are going to be open source as well. In fact, I think more and more software is starting to become built in the open. And I believe that being on that side of the fence is going to be really helpful for at least your career in the next 10 to 20 years. In fact, I bet my career on it and it turned out pretty well for me. And I would encourage you to do the same. So go find an open source project that you're interested in, go file some issues, go make some pull requests, and find ways that you can contribute to it. You may look back a few years from now and see that first issue that you opened up and see where you are now, and you might just be astonished at what happened in between. And that can lead to some opportunities that are just waiting for you.